I have something I want you to imagine. In the middle of the ocean, a tiny island, almost shaped like a crater. A town built around it. So much to explore. And in its center, an endless pit, with mysteries and danger lurking in its depths, even seeming to ensnare those who try to leave. But those who return, they come up with strange artifacts of power, some smaller, some bigger, and yet all strange. Maybe there was an old civilization who left them behind, or perhaps the pit itself produced them. And it calls to you, nagging at the back of your head, that longing to jump down and explore what riches lie in its depths. Hello, it has been 3 months, but I'm existing again. So today, I'm gonna review Made in Abyss. I hope you enjoy. So, what is Made in Abyss? Made in Abyss is a manga series made by Akihiko Tsukushi and was adapted into an anime series with 2 seasons and a movie that connects the seasons. I do recommend watching this movie. Um, I got into Made in Abyss while quarantine was still going on, and I didn't have much to read, and I started reading more manga. And eventually, I picked it up in a store, a place called Second and Charles, and I began to read, and immediately I was enthralled. The world was beautiful. All of the background panels that showed different places in the abyss, the different environments, such as the upside down forest, or even the fifth layer, they all mesmerized me. And the characters were also really fun. You have Riko, your plucky young girl who wants to become a cave raider just like her mother. Reg, a automaton who was found in the abyss, or at least on its edges by Riko, and is now descending to figure out what he is. Those are our 2 leads, at least in the beginning, and there are a bunch of other characters that are quite well written too. Sometimes they can be a little bit but most of the time they are incredibly fun to follow, especially in the manga. One of the things that this series excels at is demonstrating something you don't see very often. That is the nature of the world they are entering. The abyss is beautiful, incredible, full of wonder, but it's also full of danger. Lurking in its depths in each layer is a threat. One that our protagonists aren't always able to keep up with. Be it a monster, other raider, or even a person. This series excels at demonstrating how painful the world can be. These characters aren't left to be normal. They are thrown into situations where they're tested and they suffer. And it's sad. But as things go on, very slowly they begin to overcome it. And they grow stronger for it. And it's honestly beautiful. I don't have any other way to describe it. And it's pulled off incredibly well. Not just in the sense of the horror that creates, all these situations, but the creatures and places made. As I said before, the world of the abyss is fantastical. And the creatures that dwell down there are just as much. Some of them are so dangerous, in fact, that they can predict your own movements. Maybe not see into the future exactly, but they read something. Maybe it's what blankets the abyss. And there lies its real danger. Think of the abyss like a fly trap. When you try to ascend, you become stuck by its curse. Different levels or layers have more extreme forms of the curse, for it does not want you to leave. The first 4 layers, comparatively, are not too bad. On the 5th, it can become quite extreme, but it's still possible to ascend. And then, you have the 6th layer, the point of no return. If you try to ascend from that point, you lose your humanity, changing into some grotesque beast. Now they say there are rare exceptions to this, where they gain maybe a blessing of the pit, but most of the time it's a loss of self, in both a mental and physical sense. They call these creatures hollows, people who, in the end, did not have anything to cling to as strongly as they thought they did, and were never to ascend again, at least as they were. Now, shows like this don't typically have a lot of fights. And a lot of shows kind of bank on there being incredibly entertaining and fun fights. But this one banks on more its characters, the world that's set up, and their adventures themselves. And while there aren't a lot of fights, the ones that there are phenomenal. An example would be in the Connection movie, the fight with Bondrewd, or Bondred. I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but he is one of the most terrifying villains I have ever seen. I'm just going to play you an example of this fight here.
おやおや、おやおやおやおや、何の騒ぎかと思ったら君でしたか。しばらく見ないうちにヌルヌルしましたね。
気をつけろ、奴はカートリッジをフル装備だ。
これはご機嫌ですね。奇妙ですね。予備の電源まで吸い尽くしてしまうなんて。電気というより力を概念的に取り込んでいるのでしょうか。オーバードの実力、ぜひ見たい。ギャングウェイ。
弾いた。
スパラグモス。なんと素晴らしい。片腕をもいでしまったことをとても悔やんでいます。その体、ぜひ欲しい。
レグ、どうしちまったんだ。 記憶をなくしたというより別物じゃねえか。
おっ
けどよ、あのボンドルドとタメ腫れてやがる。
もう少しやんちゃを見ていたいですが、これ以上施設を壊されては支障が出ます。ファーカレス閉じろ。
The way a lot of the fights in this show play out is that they aren't, you know, simple confrontations. They usually have larger meanings behind it. Such as Bondrewd, who from the beginning had some kind of plan to trap and ensnare those coming to visit from the upper layers. It's not a cut and dry situation, and it is basically a trap for our adventurers. And yes, the clip was pretty long, but it is a pretty good fight. This lends credence to what I said before, that most of the fights in this show are meaningful when they happen, even though they're quite rare. And it makes them incredibly enjoyable, at least in my opinion. Now, I've given this manga a lot of praise. It's incredibly deep. It has a very good kind of theme of overcoming extreme hardship in the world around you. But there is an issue specifically in the manga that I have to mention, otherwise you will not like it. And that is you see, in Japan there are different laws when it comes to stuff like age of consent. And an issue that tends to come up is, you know, overt sexualization. And these characters are 12. I will reiterate this. In the manga, stuff like this does sometimes happen. And I get that the laws are different, or the argument of it's just a drawing. This still happens, and it is still a very big problem. And I love this series to death, but I will not deny this is a very, very big problem, especially overseas. I don't really have much more to say. It's been a while since I made a video in the first place, and I just wanted to review something I enjoy, even if it has its issues. But whatever the case, I hope you enjoyed the video, and for my next one I will endeavor to do a much better job. Bye!